atomic gigantification was a sweeping Japan nation when along came a dude with an ultra attitude, a Kamen Rider who's the greatest kicker of Japan. And of all, man, life's too short now, baby, to not talk big now, baby.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Kaiju Conversation, kind of live, but also not necessarily Kaiju Conversation live. I'm your host, Elijah, and StreamYard is working for me so far. If you are used to this show, normally it ends in a disaster by now, but it's actually been working great. I cleared all of my cookies. I have no cookies now, and I have to sign into everything again. But it's working, and I love that. But we are back at it again here for a special broadcast that will be brought onto the podcast feed. Kaiju Conversation is proud to collaborate with one of the up-and-coming, brightest, and most potential kaiju websites on the net right now. For this stream, we have a special guest. You've probably seen him once or twice before, whether he's interviewing a celebrity that we would all love to interview, or he's promoting the next greatest article on his website. He runs around. He is a man of many talents, a man that we all know, the one and only Jacob Lyngle.
That's an intro right there. How are you doing, Elijah? It's great to be back on the show.
I'm doing quite well. You know, I'm honestly, the fact that StreamYard did not break is probably the best thing to happen today, and I'm so happy.
It's making my day better. I love it. We use StreamYard too, so it's wonderful when everything goes right.
Yeah, but like you said, you are back. This is your second time you were a guest on Kaiju Conversation Live, and we're happy to have you back here to talk about your, would you call this your baby?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I care for it a little too much. Like, I've said in other discussions that I'll tinker with the homepage and like, how can I make the homepage cooler? How can I make, even a boring page like the staff and contributor page worth looking at? So I'm always spinning gears. So, but I mean, we're halfway through year 2, so the baby is now a toddler. So I guess that's a good way to put it.
Now, actually, that is a great segue into one of the things that I really appreciate from your other interviews you've talked about, the site, and from how you present yourself. The way you look at Kaiju United is okay, period. What can we do next? You're very innovative. So where does that mentality come from, and how are you able to integrate that into your day-to-day Kaiju United tasks and duties?
I think that comes from my philosophy in general. When I approach anything, I'm one of those weirdos that just can't stay still. Like right now, I'm moving in my chair. I just can't sit still. But that goes for other stuff, like with like having a job. I want to get a promotion. I want to keep moving. I want to keep moving up and forward. And that's not to say one day the site's going to go away because I want to do something else. But it's more the fact that I don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over again. It keeps things fresh. It keeps things very exciting. And I love that we can drop something that absolutely nobody expects. That's the thing that keeps me going with the site. Is we interviewed Ryuhei Kitamura, and we were just like, surprise, here it is. We tracked down Bari, who ran Godzilla Temple that I grew up reading. And we were just like, hey, guess what? He agreed to interview with us. I don't think anyone's ever interviewed him. So that was really exciting. But it's the same approach you were saying, like, okay, what can we do different this year? Especially like with the convention stuff. We did All Monsters Attack, and I wrote the panel schedule for the Chicago show, and that was a challenge. It was fun, but it was rewarding. And then this year, I'm like, what can we do next? And as you know, you were a part of that team. We sponsored and did a massive coverage of G-Fest, and we're only just starting to upload all the stuff. So you'll see that soon. But even then, with G-Fest, what's next? What are we going to do? How can we top that? I'm going to find a way to top that.
And all of this stuff is definitely something we're going to cover, because Kaiju United, even though it's only in its sophomore year, has done tremendous work. And I think some people have been truly surprised by just how far you've been able to take things, in year two. And I really appreciate that. And one of the things, so you brought up at the beginning of the year, you guys launched with an interview with Barry of Barry's Godzilla Temple, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So you mentioned that you grew up with that. And one thing that you and I both we've had conversations about this, and it's kind of an infamous moment in the fandom, and that is the 10-year gap, the 2004 to 2014 gap, longest time without a Godzilla project out there in the public's eye. So how did that time period kind of impact how you approach things?
There's a couple of things I'll say. One, it taught me that we're really lucky right now. There's so much stuff out there. You got the indies doing cool stuff like Yuzo, the biggest battle in Tokyo. You've got stuff like Ultraman's never been better with Blazar, and I think Arc's pretty good, but I'm not here to sit on a soapbox and tell you what I think about shows. But there's just so much kaiju stuff out there. You have a massive Godzilla show on Apple TV. You have the Hollywood movies. You have -1. You just got all this stuff. Back then, we didn't have that. It was like, hey, remember the movies that came out? Yeah, they were cool. And then, but because of that, I think the community grew a little stronger because we had nothing. So we just kind of made do with what we had. You saw the rise of creators on YouTube in the early 2010s. You saw Toho Kingdom persevered through that dry spell. I have a lot of respect for those guys. But I really think that's where the online community aspect came from, because we were like, well, there's no movies, so let's look back. And I think that this might be a little bit of a hot take, but sometimes I miss that time, because I think we're kind of taking this for granted a little bit. Like, we could ride this train for 10 more years, or it could fizzle out. We don't know. Hopefully it lasts a long time, but there's a little tiny bit of nostalgia for that time period. Like reading up on Godzilla 3D to the max, for those of you that are closer to my age, and that project that never came out, or being at G-Fest 2012 and Legendary going, hey, we're making a Godzilla movie. We're not going to tell you a thing about it, but we're making one. So then you had all that speculation, and that excited me as a fan, just speculation and what are they going to do next? And I guess that feeds into what we do, which keep them guessing.
Now, you mentioned that time period you think helped build a stronger community. So how was your time in that gap? How did that help you? Because, I mean, the name of the site is Kaiju United. United. That is heavily emphasized there. How do you take that time period and your experiences following that, 2014 to present? How has that helped you in your philosophies of helping bring that community together to be united and stronger?
There's it's quite the is the word multifaceted? I'm not sure. There's layers. Point is, first off, for context, I've been in this fandom since that time. In that gap period, I became an admin of a group. I'm not sure if it still exists. It was called Toho Kaiju Union, and their whole shtick was we need to make a safe haven for fans that welcomes everybody. And I really like that because the group was created in about 2011, so we were right on the cusp. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So I was an admin of that group from 2011 to 2018. So it's been a minute, but I mean, we can discuss the nuances of a 14-year-old running a Facebook group, but point is that kind of community building and you should welcome fans of all types was very influential to me, especially in a time where when I first entered the fandom, for example, Smog Monster and Megalon were like, people just hated those movies. They're like, oh, those are the worst Godzilla films. Nowadays, a lot of people love them, and that's cool. But those early Facebook groups were detrimental to my development as a fan. But with the site, I wanted to find a way to be more permanent. Because if you look at younger generations, they're not really on Facebook. Facebook groups are kind of, I'm not going to say they're dying, because you have wonderful groups like Collect All Monsters and stuff like that. But having a hub and a site on a larger level where you can be on Facebook, Discord, Instagram, YouTube, I think is the right way to go, because you can reach everybody. Because not everybody likes Facebook. Not everybody likes, a lot of people don't like Twitter. Just stuff like that. But I think that the philosophy is nice, that you should welcome everybody, no matter who they are or what they enjoy about the movies, because we all love this stuff, right? But I think the community has the potential to be bigger. I think we can look at the bigger picture and expand beyond small Facebook groups that are, I don't want to call them cliquey, I don't want to call them mean stuff, but sometimes Facebook groups can become an echo chamber, and I want all kinds of ideas. In fact, I want to be challenged. There's a writer that may debut on our site soon that is going to write a piece on why you should watch Rebirth of Mothra 1, 2, and 3. Don't personally like those movies, but if that writer can sell me on it and get me to watch those movies and reevaluate, that's what I want to see. That was a long answer. I apologize.
No, that's what I'm looking for. I love it. There's a lot of things there that I want to talk about, and we'll break it down, and we'll talk about them. But one thing I wanted to ask you. So you brought up challenges. What has been before we talk about challenges, Facebook groups. That has been something that from what my understanding is, has been detrimental to Kaiju United, because that's what it was a long time ago. So what's the story behind that?
The live stream friendly answer to that is that I saw a lot of these groups say that they welcome everybody and that they want everybody in there, and that they want all fans alike to be in this group. But they didn't treat certain members of these groups very nicely. And through my admin experience, I went to a certain group that I won't name here. And I was like, hey, dude, like you say in your description, you want everyone welcome here. You're not treating these people very nicely. And they just shrugged me off and didn't care. So I went, you know what? I've been out of the group game since 2018, and this was 2020. We're all dealing with major events that happened in 2020 that forced us in our homes. And I went, well, if everyone's going to be chronically online for a little bit, I think I'll start my own group. I'll do it by my rules. I'll take all of my experience that I've had doing these groups, but I want to make the group that truly welcomes everybody, no matter what. Any fad doesn't matter. We're going to do it, and we're going to stand by that. And I basically just created a small little group, and acted as the bouncer. I was like, I know you're kind of can I swear on this show?
If you want to, go for it.
People, I'll just call them knuckleheads. There we go. I'll be a knucklehead. I'm not going to let you in. Point blank. I don't know. I was struggling for that word. And it developed over time. And in about 2022, I was like, okay, we have this little group with about 500 members. It's very tight knit. It's very community driven. It's all about who's in there and the community and uplifting them. How can I take this to the next level? And I looked at options. I said, do we go to a subreddit? Do we do a full-on YouTube channel? Do we just stay in Facebook and hope for the best? And like I said earlier, I just think that, I don't know, because MySpace used to be big back when I was a child and not using social media, but who uses MySpace? You know, I wanted something more permanent just in case. I don't see it happening, but Facebook could go the way of MySpace one day. Who knows? What's going to happen to all those groups and communities? They would just go away, I guess.
I really appreciate, you mentioned a lot about, treating people fairly and inclusion and not harassing individuals. And I think especially, we all know the videos that have been posted, and we know all the conversations that have been going on in the fandom as of late. And it's really nice to hear concepts that predate the issues that are trying to combat that. And I think that's something that the fandom really needs to latch onto, is those places, those individuals, those accounts that are fighting the good fight of being a safe space and bringing inclusion into a community that is very vocal about wanting inclusion. So I think that's something that a lot of people can really gravitate and latch onto for the site. I think that's really beautiful.
I appreciate that. And I mean it. Like, I want it to be the absolute, when I created the Facebook group background, I want it to be the absolute most inclusive group ever. Period. End of story. It's time. I just got fed up. I was like, it's time. And I'm not a fan of, and this is no offense to anyone that's done this. I respect everybody. I'm not a fan of just saying there's a problem. I'm a solutions man. Even if my solution doesn't work, I'm going to try. I'll try again, and I'll try again. I just wanted to do something about it. I don't like sitting on the couch and being a couch coach and just going, oh, there's a problem. Okay, what are we going to do about it?
See, go ahead.
I was just going to point out some comments that I saw, but you can keep going. That I see that Donnie and Sean have commented.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up, and then I was going to do some shout outs. I appreciate that, because that goes right back to, what I started us off with, which was, okay, what do we do next? That mentality, that, okay, so here's the issue, so what do we do about it? And I love that. I love that about you, about the website. That's you're constantly looking to solve an issue. You're constantly looking to see what's next. And I think that's really beautiful. And yes, we got some shout outs. Donnie Winter, two of my favorite people. Hello, Donnie. Thank you so much. And then we have Sean Berry in the chat. Good evening. Hello.
Oh, man. I mean, really, yeah, while we're doing shout-outs, Donnie is phenomenal. Donnie does stuff for our site. He does Growing Up with Godzilla. And I think he's pretty much one of the epitome examples of what I want to see. Donnie wants inclusiveness in the community. Donnie uplifts members of the community and tells their story. And in a way, I guess we'll get to this later, but everything we do, aside from, okay, what's next, is that I want to tell a story. Every single interview we do tells a story in some way or another. And then Sean Barry writes for us. He just did a Daimajin review. You'll probably see some more from him, but he's also wickedly talented. He's on Asian Movie Pulse. He just interviewed, I forgot his name. He interviewed the director of Kamen Rider Black Sun because he just did a movie. He just did a movie that premiered at New York Asian Film Festival. Sorry, Sean, I'm blanking on names, but it's a great interview. You should check it out.
So actually, let's talk about that. So two of the contributors, two amazing contributors in the chat. So contributors. Now, Kaiju United is not a Jacob Lyngle, like you run the site, you host it, but it's not necessarily all your work. There's a plethora of people behind it. So what do you want people to know about the contributor side of Kaiju United and what that brings to the table and what opportunities there are?
I want Kaiju United, in terms of contributors, to serve as a place where someone can go and crack their writing chops. And as they develop and they hone their writing skills, and maybe down the road they get offered by Screen Anarchy to write or some other huge publication. I want to see that, because then they can maybe look back and go, Kaiju United gave me my start. And that's beautiful to me. I'm not looking to lock you down. You're going to stay with KU. I really want people to develop and hone. And if they stick around and they love it, then that's cool. But I want to see the real talent in this community get lifted up and built. And yeah, I do some stuff on there. Like I'm the interview guy. I handle a lot of the press releases and PR. So a lot of that nuts and bolts stuff I do. I would like to write articles like I did during launch, but I'm just so sucked up in doing interviews and making things happen that I don't have the time anymore. But sometimes I'll pop in and review Ultraman Rising or Monarch or something. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's our awesome contributors that are really driving the success of the site. They're reviewing movies, and we do have a positive spin on things, but that doesn't mean that, we're what's the good word I'm looking for? We're not afraid to say something is bad, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. We do want to lean a little positive, just because talking about what you love is way more fun than feeling angry and tearing something apart. It just doesn't make me feel good. But yeah. Adding on to that, anyone can approach us. Like, there's a couple of kids that are in college and they're just writing for fun. There's a couple of people that have been published, like Donnie or some other guys, like maybe Nathan. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned pro like Cesar Alejandro Jr., who had a Asian film blog called Film Smash from 2007 to 2023, and does like New York Asian Film Festival and all kinds of film fest writing. He's a pro. He's as professional as it gets. But that doesn't mean that people that are just writing for fun can't just go, hey, can I review this movie? Because I want that too. I want the community to feel like they can come write for us. But that's also a tough balance, because I also want a level of quality so that people are like, cool, Kaiju United's letting me write for them. That's cool. That's prestigious. It's a badge of honor. So it's a balancing act, but I do want that open door policy. You can pitch us your idea, and if we like it, let's run it. It's not like I need you to specifically do this, because we don't have all the ideas. It's impossible to know. Sometimes I'll have good ideas. Sometimes a contributor will go, hey, I know that you are a kaiju site, but I want to review Tetsuo the Iron Man. Can I do that? And I'll go, yeah, why don't we try that out? So open ideas, open door pitch. We want you to feel like you can come to us, but we also want to maintain a nice standard of so people come back and read. They're not like, this sucks. So, long-winded answer again.
How would somebody apply or pitch that? What means do they have to do that?
So we have a contact page. You can hit up our social medias. There is a contact form on the contact page of our site that's like the form will just ping right to our email. So you can use that. A lot of people have done that. You can email us. I have my own email listed on the contact page. And our main general inquiry email is thekaijuunited@gmail.com. I'll spell it out, THE, kaijuunited@gmail.com. Pretty much just you can email and say, I want to write. What's the process? Or you can have a full-on pitch. We've had that before. We've had people like put together entire presentations about what they want to do. And that's cool. That impresses me. But even if you're like, I want to write, I just don't really know what to write about, then I handle all that so we can talk about it. So most of the time you're going to be emailing me. So I'm welcome to that. We're looking for contributors 24/7 because it's also, we're all doing this volunteers. So not everyone can dedicate like the amount of time it would take to be a staff writer on a normal website. So the incentive is you can come and go. Like 3 months from now, you might go, oh, I got an idea. Let's do it. And then maybe in a couple months, you'll take a break and you'll be like, oh, can I review Grant Sputore's Monsterverse film? And we'll go, yeah. But point is, you can come and go as you'd like. And I think that has created a model of people that want to write for us. And then if they like it enough, they'll come back. And so far, most people that debut on the site are coming back. And I love that.
Awesome. Another shout out here as we continue on. Helmy, hello. It was so nice to meet both of you at G-Fest. And I am much taller in person. I am a proud 6'1" individual. The 1 inch past 6 foot makes it better. That counts.
I'm a short king.
So I really appreciate how Kaiju United does go out of its way to allow anybody to contribute. You have multiple different outlets on the site as well. You have a plethora of podcasts you support. There's a toys and collectibles section. There's an art section. There's a ton of things Kaiju United does, and I want to dive into all of those and kind of learn where the interest comes from for showcasing those aspects of the community. But before we go any further, I do want to know the origin of Kaiju United in name. Where did that come from?
This answer might be disappointing. It was when I created the Facebook group, I wanted to emphasize the whole anyone, the inclusivity, and that anyone can come join our group. Because all these groups were like this legion, this union. Nah, we'll just say Kaiju United. Keep it simple. You can abbreviate it as KU. I like that. KU's catchy. But the United emphasized like we're gonna do our damnness to unite this community and make it one community and stop this bickering and divisiveness and it's tiring. Let's just come together. We all like this stuff. And I mean it. I'm not going to preach inclusivity and all of this stuff and not put my money where my mouth is. Like everyone's welcome no matter what. And we have zero tolerance on toxicity. Zero. None. So that's kind of where the name came from. It's just we're gonna stay united. We're going to really bring everyone together.
So is that the message of of KU, would you say?
That's part of it. That's definitely a factor. Our official motto is bringing the best of the kaiju community. We've expanded that to kaiju and tokusatsu, but that's kind of where I think that's the main message, because that means so many different things. It means I want the best writers. I want the best folks that are the nicest, the talent. I want to uplift everything cool that this community has to offer, whether that's podcasters, artists, writers, editors. I want to assemble the greatest and have the best people I can find that maybe others aren't really looking at too. Because I know there's a plethora of brilliant established writers that do Godzilla writing. But the next generation of writers need somewhere to write too, right? That was a lot of saying the word right.
So let's dive into that a bit. So what you mentioned bringing the best of the kaiju community, right? And you mentioned that's been expanded upon. You earlier brought up Tetsuo, the Iron Man, one of my personal favorite films. So what would you say Kaiju United is? What does the site champion in terms of content? What is the basis for what Kaiju United covers?
Do you mean that as in like, what are we good at? Or do you, what can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Let's do what topics most contributors go into, and then let's go based off of what you want to cover, what kind of things you like covering and what you want to see the site progress into covering.
I like that. Man, that's got some layers to it. I think we are absolutely phenomenal at covering anything kaiju. I think we're pretty on top of what's coming and what's new and what's going on. That was something I learned in our freshman year, because our freshman year we missed out on Ultraman Blazar, and I felt like that was such a missed opportunity. So I made sure we're going to cover ARC, whether that's on our social media with the simple review graphics, or whether that's like a full-on article review. We're going to cover everything Ultraman we can. I just think we're great at kaiju stuff. We're great at we're really, that's our bread and butter. Like the comparison I get is a restaurant. The restaurant has its signature dish that they're known for. It's really delicious, but they have a bunch of appetizers you want to try and stuff. That's kind of where we're at right now. The main entree, the homemade lasagna or whatever you want to call it, is the kaiju stuff. I think we cover the MonsterVerse quite well, especially with some of the opportunities we've had. In terms of stuff I want to see the tokusatsu side. There's so much more to kaiju than just Godzilla, Gamera, and Ultraman, and there's so much more to tokusatsu than just Ultraman or these films. We had a review of The Golden Bat, a classic tokusatsu film from Toei by Cesar Alejandro Jr. That kind of stuff I want to see. I want to test the waters a little bit. We've been playing around with creature features, as you know, because you handled Bite and took a bite out of that one. But like Alien Romulus is on the horizon. Why don't we try that? And our base might be like, hey, dude, that's cool. I'm here for Godzilla. And that's all right. We tried, right? But I want to see more Sentai. Like, there's a Sentai show every year that we don't really give it that much love. Like, I always struggle pronouncing the name. Boonger is airing.
Boonger. Yeah.
Okay. What a mouthful. That's airing right now, I think. Nobody's really doing anything with that. And the argument could be made that Jacob, you're editor-in-chief, why don't you just write about it? And that's true. But there's stuff like that. I want to cover all our bases. I want to be the definitive hub for all of that stuff. Because I'm not here to throw their sites under the bus, because I have a lot of respect for the guys that came before. But they're really good at the main entree thing. I want to have a full menu. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So, mentioning the premiere thing, I know that you have definitely talked about this, but I feel like we should bring up the amazing opportunity that you had last year with Apple TV and covering Monarch Legacy of Monsters. How was that for you?
That was crazy. That a lot of successful people will be like, don't be afraid of asking. And I used to be like, I don't know, dude, it's kind of scary. All we did was ask. And at first it was just, giving the press coverage, giving the press releases, and we got the screener, right? I got to see the show early so I could drop a review when the embargo lifted. That, in a way, legitimized Kaiju United for me. We did get a screener and dropped a review for the lake, like a month into existing. So that was like, whoop. But the Monarch thing, I think, was like, all right, this kid with a Kaiju site, he's really doing some stuff. Because once I dropped that, then I pushed really hard and I got a press junket day. And while it would have been really cool to interview Kurt Russell, we were the new kids on the block, but it was really cool that we got to talk to some of the cast. And, they're all working Hollywood people. That's really dope. So I think that legitimized us in a way that we really needed. And then we'll talk about some other opportunities. I brought up Mr. Kitamura. That, to me, was okay, I'm here to stay. We didn't just get lucky once and get a press junket, and we got this wonderful one-hit wonder. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I can count on my one hand how many people have interviewed Ryuhei Kitamura in this community. And I think you can too.
Can.
So that was I'm here to stay, and we're here as one of the big boys. So that both opportunities were legitimizing, and I'm not here to say, look at all the cool stuff I did and, tout my ego, but that kind of stuff the community sees and they recognize, whether you want to admit it or not, right?
So let's start moving towards the interview side of Kaiju United, because you have been able to get some remarkable interviews. So where did you get your start or interest in interviewing filmmakers and the fans that helped build this community?
I think it started early on when we did our first guest. Initially, I just wanted to write articles and just write and pour my heart out and write long form articles and just talk about this stuff that I love. Then I interviewed Graham Skipper. That was our first special guest interview. I did it with Sean, who was on the site formerly. He's from Fangoria and Screen Anarchy. And we did a lot of panels together initially. I like speaking on panels. There's just some other guy that comes out, and I get on stage and I'm extroverted suddenly. It's cool. After talking to Graham, I went, you know what? Something we can do in this community is highlight the people in our community that are doing cool stuff by interviewing them. So we spent a lot of year one. We talked to Dane Kroll, who writes Realm of Goryo. We talked to Frankie B. Washington and Matthew Blair, who does Kaijus and Cowboys. Basically all the indie comic people we talked to, because I also like comic books. So that was cool. I get to talk about comic books and Kaiju and highlight someone in the community. But once we started getting the major guests, I was like, hey, people really like these interviews. Our traffic is kind of flocking towards interviews. And people say they're pretty good. Why don't we just keep doing what's working? And I'm not telling you that I hate doing it. I love it. I love just having conversations with people. I want to hear their stories. I want to hear what resonates with them in terms of kaiju. Because most of our special guests are Godzilla fans, even if they're high profile. They love this stuff. Why do they love it so much? And, it's like Donnie's show, Growing Up with Godzilla. Everyone has a story about why they like the movies and what appeals to them, even if they're a movie director or a visual effects artist. So that to me is what kind of made it stay. And I just, I think it highlights people in a way that allows them to speak. And they're just really fun to record. I think a lot of people that record with us have a really fun time. We're working on some return guests right now, and I think it's a badge of honor that people want to come back and talk again. So there's a lot of reasons to that. That's quite the mouthful, but hopefully that makes sense to everybody watching.
So I hate to stop this flow real quick, but you don't get interviewed a lot, and you said something that I think we should, put a pause and just learn what resonates with you and Godzilla.
There's different approaches I have with Godzilla, and you're right. I don't do interviews very much, so that's why I ramble a little bit. But I have fun and I talk a lot. Godzilla on the film level, because I'm a film guy before a kaiju guy. My favorite movie is behind me, Phantom of the Paradise, Brian De Palma. Godzilla is a showcase of what I believe to be expert filmmaking. The level of care that goes into a Godzilla film, even in the Showa period where people go, oh, it's kind of hokey. I don't think so. I think all of Ishiro Honda's films are masterpieces. Every single one of them. Every single one. On that level, the dedication and the craft is unmatched. I think those films are brilliant examples of special effects innovation. On the entertainment level, I'm a monster movie guy. I love all monsters. I love Dracula. I love Frankenstein's monster. Godzilla is arguably Mount Rushmore of movie monster history, next to King Kong and Dracula and Frankenstein, I would say. So on that level, I love creatures. I love how they're designed. I love that every creature design has love and heart put into it, even the CGI stuff. I'm a practical effects man, but I have a deep respect for 3D artists and animators that tell stories and stuff through their amazing 3D presentations. But at the end of the day, I've been in this fandom for a long time. Godzilla's an old buddy. It's like picking up an old comic book and rereading stories about Superman and, the feelings you get that, with Superman, he inspires you. You feel hopeful. You feel like we can be better people. Godzilla, in a way, to me, is that old friend where I can go watch the movie and go, hey, wow, these films still hold up no matter what. And B, I can go, man, I'm having a lot of fun watching this mayhem and watching the tanks getting stepped on and the pyrotechnics going off and stuff like that. The third thing, and then I'll let you go, is Godzilla means community to me. I wouldn't be the man I am today without these films, without the people that inhabit this fandom. The Facebook groups and the G-Fest cultivated my teenage years. They were very influential to me, and I feel like I owe a lot to the community. Kaiju United is kind of my gift back to the community. I'm doing all this cool stuff because now the community has it. They can go read about this guy or this guy anytime they want, and they can learn more about these films that I love. And then on the family side, my aunts and uncles read Kaiju United. They can learn why I love this stuff so much. And I think that's really cool.
So not to pull a therapist card here, but so I took note here. So at its core, Godzilla is like an old friend. Godzilla is fun, and it's about the community, right?
Yeah. So
in a way, when people talk about G-Fest, you and I especially know about how it's G-Fest is not a place, it's a people, it's that love of the community, the people there. So in a way, it almost, to me, just kind of interpreting what I'm hearing, it sounds like, in a way, Kaiju United is that for you as well. It represents old friends. You've met a lot of great people through Kaiju United. It has built its own community. People at G-Fest, people I was next to you, they know you. You're Kaiju United, and so there is a community behind that, and it's also fun. I mean, there is work to be done, absolutely, but it sounds like you have a lot of fun with being around those people, with working with people, with working with your friends, with doing that stuff. So, not to pull that therapist card, but in a way, it almost sounds like the way you view Kaiju United is very similar to how you feel about Godzilla deep down.
You're really picking my brain, Elijah. Yeah, I think you summed it up great, because KU is the past, present, and the future for me. The past is, I've known people like David Scrivani for a decade, so I'm bringing him in, I know David's talented. He does Talking Toku now. But besides that, we were in those groups for years and years and years and years and years. Yeah, come along in my new journey. It's the present. What's going on right now in the community? It's the future. Where are we going to be in 5 years with this community? How are these circles going to evolve and change? How can we look to the stars in the future together? I want to stay together, but I also want to, I want to change the community in positive ways. I want to be a positive force. And hopefully at the end of the day, if something happens, and KU has to conclude, or I do other stuff, or I kick the bucket or something, hopefully that's my legacy. I want to leave that behind as, Jacob did something really special here. And of course, all the contributors did something special too, but I did start the thing, right?
So, legacy. That's something that resonates with me. I'm somebody that thinks about legacy a lot. So, Kaiju United, outside of the website, outside of the contributors, the writers, the interviews, there's also a lot more to be had with Kaiju United. One thing that you do is you highlight various people's, you brought up David and Talking Toku, and Donnie with Growing Up with Godzilla. You're nice enough to showcase Kaiju Conversation. So, and outside of just podcasts, you have a Toys and Collectibles tab showcasing various members in the community, their action figure collection, their collectibles, and art. So what can you tell me about that and that inclusion of other areas of this fandom?
I think we all enjoy this fandom in our different ways. You got the guys downstairs at G-Fest that love building dioramas and model kits. You have the guys that make their own kaiju movies independently in their garages. You have people that buy Safubi figures. Hopefully I said that right. Or X Plus or Bandai or whatever, I want to feature everything in the community. We don't have a model kit section, but if that's something that someone wants to help out with, let's put it on there. The art. I want to platform the artists in our community. There's so many amazing, incredible, blows my mind art that people are just doing because they love Godzilla that much. And not all of them get to work on comic books. Not all of them get to work on concept art for Hollywood movies. Some of them just do it because it's fun. And I like that. And I wanted to have a place where people could show off that art. And originally I did want all their socials and links and stuff so people can go find these artists. It's a little tough when it's fan art, especially with, making income off of that. That's another conversation for another time. But I want to showcase some of these cool artists in our community and all their different art styles and all that. I think toy photography is really fun. I think taking really nice photos of figures is cool. They're all hand sculpted at the end of the day. They got to sculpt the base model, right? The sculpt, whatever you want to call it. One of our first interviewees was Masonzilla, who does really cool SH Monster Arts figure photography that tells different stories. He anthropomorphizes Godzilla in a way that is kind of neat. Just stuff like that. And that's what the gallery does. We have musicians on there. We have a dance pop artist called Map and the Bright Humans who makes dance pop covers of Toku themes. That's cool. We have Oxygen Destroyer, a death metal band that's, just released a couple songs about the Gamera trilogy. There's so many different ways that we invest in this fandom and pour out. And I want it to be known that you don't have to write big articles or flashy reviews of movies to do something with Kaiju United. You do art, we'll platform it. At the end of the day, we're a platform. I want to uplift everybody. And we'll feature cool stuff and I'll interview cool people. But at the end of the day, that's what we are. I want to uplift the cool people and the brilliant talent in this community that others might really not be looking at. Long-winded answer again, but that's just what it boils down to. It's just all those features are just all the different ways we outpour in art and creativity and represent this franchise and our love for it. And that's amazing to me.
And is contributing to showcasing that stuff the same as contributing like an article, just reaching out and asking about that?
Yeah, I think it's easier because all we really do is, hey, you want to be in the gallery? Cool. Send us what you're comfortable with us platforming and sharing. Sometimes I'll send them a little Q&A so that people get to know them a little bit, like the cosplayers. We have a cosplay gallery, right? One of the questions is, what made you sit down and go, I'm going to build a whole suit and replicate these costumes? Because that's where my brain goes. Like, where was the critical point where you were like, I'm going to build a Mecha Godzilla that is cool enough to win the costume contest at G-Fest? Or, with art, I'm going to draw this cool piece of Hanna-Barbera Godzilla fighting Godzilla, the series Godzilla. Where did you come to that idea? That's so cool. But yeah, the TLDR version of that is, yeah, if you want to, the gallery's kind of taking a back seat, admittedly, because we have so much going on, but it's something I want to maintain. You can almost treat it like a museum of the fandom's creativity. People can access it. It's in a place that gets a lot of traffic now, and maybe they'll discover their new favorite artist there.
So, speaking of all the things you've got going on, there are a couple other things that Kaiju United is linked to and does. And one of them being a YouTube channel, and the other being Kaiju United's own podcast, Kaiju Town Hall. Now, I know that there hasn't been a lot of activity on those, but what can you say about those? And is there any potential teasers you can give us about possible revampings of either of those?
I think the YouTube channel is something that we are looking at doing more with. Right now, it's, hey, there's a couple of videos, and all of our panels are on there. Eventually, I want to get to the point where our setup is so good that our interviews that we record on StreamYard are on YouTube. So you can watch us interact and watch us talk to these people instead of just reading, you know, because not everyone wants to read a couple thousand words of an interview. There's other ways for people to get that same information. So I will say we're looking into revamping the YouTube channel and getting that like a little more love. I think the site itself is a very well-oiled machine. There seems to always be an article available to drop. There's always an interview. We're sitting on 2 of them right now, if we're teasing stuff. The Kaiju United Town Hall was some members of the staff really wanted to do a podcast in-house. And the model we were kind of looking at was Bloody Disgusting. They have a podcast network where ours is a little different because we don't own any of the other podcasts besides KUTH, and we will never own the podcasts that aren't KUTH. But Bloody Disgusting has like 8 podcasts for people to listen to. This one's about Stephen King. This one's about horror. This one's about horror from a female perspective. You know, there's so many different options. And there was talk about, there were people asking us too, when are you doing a podcast? When are you doing a podcast? That was our number one question year one. Is when are you doing a podcast? I'm doing so much work with the other stuff. I didn't want to commit to a full-time 1 episode a week podcast. So the compromise was Kaiju United Town Hall. Whenever something freaking huge happens in the community, like a big new release, like -1 or GXK, we'd get together and we'd bring someone on as a guest and we'd talk about it. And I think that model works. It just, I'm not looking to downgrade anything here. People want more regular activity in a podcast. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
They want more frequency, where ours is impromptu. It's just when it happens, you know, if something major happens in the community. So I think we're going to look at maybe a little more frequency with that. Whether it remains Kaiju United Town Hall, I don't know. I think the Town Hall name is great for huge announcements, or like when we did the first anniversary live stream. That felt like a Town Hall. Everyone was there, right? So I would say by year 3, we'll probably have the YouTube channel a little more like a machine, and maybe an in-house podcast. We're working on that. But that being said, the site comes first. We're not going to jump into being YouTubers or something, you know. It's like, oh man, I'd have to think of an example of a creator. But it is a branch of the tree trunk that is the site. That's how I put it.
So speaking of you know, the YouTube channel and the podcast, you mentioned that panels go up. Now, Kaiju United in its first year got to do, as you've previously mentioned, All Monsters Attack. And you also got to cover G-Fest recently. So what can you say about your convention appearances and how that has helped develop Kaiju United through these first 2 years?
I think that put us on the map. Besides those 2 major, you know, besides Monarch and Mr. Kitamura, I think that was our bread and butter. I'm always at these events. Getting to interview 5 suit actors last August at All Monsters Attack LA was a pretty big opportunity. That harkens back to what I was saying about the past, present, and future. A lot of these suit actor guys are pushing their 60s, right? They're not going to be able to do these conventions forever. So I think personally it was incredible getting to talk to my heroes that were in these suits and design these suits on stage, even if you know, even if it wasn't like a huge like Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con moment, like they deserve, in my opinion, I think it was really wonderful to, in our first year, we talked to Tsutomu Kitagawa, to Marukuni Nakagawa, to Akira Ohashi, all of those amazing gentlemen that do incredible stuff, and they're still working to this day. The only regret I have on that is I wish we filmed them better. And that's where I look back and go, what can we do different? What's next? You know, but those Q&As are just like they're panels, but they're interviews at the same time to me. So it's really fun to get that live energy. You know, getting Akira Ohashi to try and kick me in the face. Where else are you gonna see that? So, getting Tsutomu Kitagawa to talk about his rock band. Did you know he was in a rock band? You do now. Stuff like that is really fun to me, and it brings out a side of those guys that you don't see very often. In terms of like convention stuff, we haven't really decided what we're doing next year. G-Fest was a huge undertaking and a huge cool assignment. And it was really cool to see the community's reaction to Kaiju United as the first official sponsor of G-Fest. That was historic, whether you want to admit it or not. However you feel about G-Fest, we're not here to talk about that. That was a big deal. And that was an honor for me because, you know, I spent all that time growing up with G-Fest. And that was cool. But we're always looking to do bigger and cooler stuff. So what's next? I don't know. You'll have to find out.
So with that, I'm looking here. I feel like there's a little bit more we can talk about. And, you know, talking about G-Fest, you know, that news and whatnot, people were able to react to that. And a lot of that is thanks to your social media presence on various platforms. So what platforms is Kaiju United on for people to tune into, to check out, and to interact with?
We're on the major ones. Like I said in Donnie's episode of Growing Up with Godzilla, we're not going to be on Bluesky or Mastodon, whatever those were. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter, X, Elon Musk land, whatever you want to call it. We have a Twitch just in case. You know, we secured all the names. But our big ones are Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, I would say. We have the biggest following on Instagram, so you can find us there. I'd like to grow our Facebook just a little bit. And then our Twitter, we'll just share our articles and stuff and retweet. Those are the three major ones. YouTube, we have all our panels that we filmed. We have some cool MonsterVerse recaps by Nick Crispino. I would say that's the platform we're looking to expand the most. But otherwise, you can find us on every major social. But the big trunk of the tree is we'll always, no matter what happens to those social medias, if they go the way of MySpace or they fall out of popularity, we will always have the website. And I think that's the coolest thing.
Now, with the last year and a half going on to two full years here before you know it, right? What has been, and you know, you've done All Monsters Attack, Chicago, and LA, correct?
I think you cut out for a sec. What'd you say?
So in the last year and a half, you've done various things, you know, obviously running the site, doing the YouTube channel, running the social media platforms, doing All Monsters Attack Chicago and LA, correct?
Yes. Yeah, we did both.
And then G-Fest, of course, doing the press and sponsoring that. Various interviews, you know, being on the grind, as people would say. What has been some of the biggest challenges for these first 2 years?
That's a loaded question, Elijah. The biggest challenge initially was getting people to follow. Starting from scratch. I didn't have a big YouTube channel to piggyback off of. I didn't have any of that. We were a small, tight-knit group of community people, and we just decided to go for it. That was our first challenge, was what are we going to do? How are we going to get people to care? And how are we going to get people to come back? Of course, sometimes, dealing with so many entities and organizations and corporations and personalities, that can be a challenge. But it hasn't been that hard. Most people are pretty nice folks. Even the people you would expect to be difficult have been very pleasant with us. And I think that's rad. I think just the biggest challenge of all, honestly, Elijah, has been consistency. That's the one thing we get praised about a lot, is that we're always doing something. There's always something going on. We're always looking. We're always doing something. And some people that might be exhausting. I'm kind of a workaholic, so I love it. I'm like, okay, what's next? Okay, we're doing that. Okay, let's go. That in itself is a challenge. But I also like taking on personal challenges. Our Takuji Yamada interview at G-Fest, there was no information about him in English, really, besides like his G-Fest bio. So that's a personal challenge. What can I dig up about this guy that's interesting to a live audience? That was a cool challenge. Another challenge. We have had the biggest month in Kaiju United viewership in terms of website traffic, and not once this month have we dropped an interview. Can we do it again? Or do we have to rely on interviews? You know what I mean? April and May, we were slamming out cool special guests. Ryuhei Kitamura, Jared Krzyzewski, James Rolfe, just all these brilliant guests. Can we repeat that? Or did we peak with those interviews? I would say we did not. I would say there's different gates we can unlock in the future, because I'm trying not to spoil my surprises here. And there's a plethora of names we haven't talked to yet that I would love to give a chance. Like Mr. Bob Eggleton, if you're watching, we want to talk to you. I think Bob deserves the end-all, be-all interview. He's done many, 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 many interviews. I want to be the guy that does the end-all, be-all. This is Bob Eggleton. So, stuff like that. But point is, challenges, just maintaining the consistency and getting people invested. Why do we care about a fan site in 2024? I'll tell you why. That kind of thing. Like, fan sites were kind of a thing in the 2000s. Like, nowadays, people are watching YouTube and TikTok. But it seems like there's a chunk of the community that wants the fan site back. Another challenge would be modernizing everything. I really wanted to do a forum because I'm nostalgic for the Toho Kingdom forums and stuff like that. It's just not really, unless you've been on the forums for decades and you're loyal to it, it's hard to start a brand new forum from scratch. So stuff like that. Originally, I wanted to do a database, a reference database of all the movies and shows and actors. Writing that from scratch is real hard. I learned that the hard way. So just something that we couldn't work out, but we can do other stuff. So I don't know. There's all kinds of challenges, both logistically and personalities, but the challenges are meant to be beaten and overcome. So I don't really see them as too big of hurdles.
All right. So I think I have one last question for you to bring us full circle.
Sweet.
Okay. So what do you do next?
What do I do? I don't know if I could spoil that, Elijah. What do I do next?
What can you hint? What can you hint?
most of our interviews have been with people that speak English. I feel like that once we overcome that, the gate's going to unlock. And there's going to be a whole bunch of different interviews we could do. Whole plethora of people we can talk to because we're virtual, right? They don't need to fly out to Chicago to talk to us. So maybe I'll leave it with that. And there's certain people that don't speak English that have not been interviewed yet that deserve an interview. And I'll let you figure that out because I'm not going to tell you. I like being the guy that finds Bari's Temple of Godzilla and finds these people and, you know, gets Ryuhei Kitamura. So I'm not going to spoil that. But once that key unlocks that gate, we're going to go to the moon. I'm really excited about it.
Well, Jacob, I don't want to take too much more of your time. Has there been anything that I have failed to bring up that you feel like is good to mention?
Oh, man. What did we not cover? I think we covered a lot of it. We kind of boiled the philosophy down, the thought process. We didn't do too many of the secrets, like how we built it and stuff, which is fine. You can watch other interviews for that. But I guess I'll close it out by saying that, you know, if you like what we do, come talk to us. You can help us out. You can contribute. Or if you feel inspired and you want to start your own site, I'm totally invested in what the community's doing. And as long as you have incredible, original stuff, I will have your back. Because we are one community, and none of us are going anywhere. So I guess I'll leave it at that. But hopefully people have enjoyed what we've been doing. I mean, the first year and a half has felt like 5 years. You know, the stuff we've accomplished is just insane to me. I don't really know. Like, I have ideas and plans. I don't have like a roadmap right now. But wherever that road takes us, I'm really excited for.
Awesome. That was great. Thank you so much, Jacob, for coming on, talking about Kaiju United, giving us the rundown of what it is. For anybody who hasn't checked out Kaiju United, you can go to X, you can go to Instagram at Kaiju United, all one word. You can go to Facebook, Kaiju United official Facebook group, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Or you can go to www.kaijuunited.com, all one word, and check out the site for yourself. It's got a lot of great articles. I'm not just saying that because I've contributed a couple. There's some genuinely amazing articles on there. So, again, thank you so much, Jacob. Before we close this out, do you have any noblest of live stream traditions promotion you want to throw out there for anybody?
All right, I'm gonna do. I'll do one this time because last time I was like, nope, and then just chilled for a minute. Oh, Elijah's right. We're on every single social media: Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram. We have an official Facebook group. We have a Facebook page that's just nothing but the site stuff. I want to emphasize that anybody and everybody can come write for us, can come contribute in some way. Even if it's not something you currently see on the site, I'm always looking for innovators. We're looking for contributors. We're looking for people to take us to the next step in our path. I'm very thankful for everyone that's been along for the ride the first year and a half. Those first 2 years are make it or break it, and I think we've made it. Hopefully people have enjoyed, and you guys can name drop a favorite piece. Open door pitch policy, come write for us. You can find me on my own socials by my own name. You can add me or follow me or connect with me. I'm not, a super don't add me kind of guy. But basically, yeah, go check out some of the reviews, some of the articles, some of our interviews. Give us a follow. We like to follow back. stay tuned for more. I really hope everyone had fun listening to me ramble a lot. So it's just first of many on our little press tour that we're kicking off. So it'll be a lot of fun. And I think that's all I got. Thanks, Elijah.
Thank you. So for anybody watching, thank you for tuning in live. Thank you for commenting in the chat. For anybody listening in the VOD, thank you so much for tuning in. For anybody listening on the podcast feed, thank you so much for listening. And all I have left to say is, please remember, life's too short to not talk big. Bye, guys.
We are set, we are in debt, there's nothing to sweat. Life's too short now, baby. Kaiju, not too big now, baby. Conversation. His name's Elijah, baby. And also Rex now, baby. We love those kaiju, baby. And you will too now.